What's up, Kings fans? We're here, we're drinking beers, and we're talking about your Sacramento Kings. What up, Kings fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Royal Rebounds Podcast with Calvin and Barry. We are so excited for the season to start. We're about a month away. Today, we are talking about Richaun Holmes, his new 4-year contract with the Sacramento Kings, and what we can expect from him in this next year. But before we jump into that, I want to remind you all to hit that like button down below. If you would like to join the Royal family, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And if you would like to find out when Calvin and I put out a new video, make sure you hit that cowbell down below. Calvin, what are we drinking today?
We're drinking a unique beer. This is from the Pinkus, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, brewery in Germany, Munster, Germany. Started in 1816, one of the older breweries, I would believe, in the world, and the first organic brewery, certified organic brewery in the world. Pretty crazy story. Family owned back since the 1800s. According to their website, there have been 150 breweries in the town of Munster since they started, and they are the only one remaining in that time. So this is their Hefeweizen, by the way.
Truly incredible. You know what they say, don't panic, it's organic. All right, so we're jumping right in here to Richaun Holmes. As many Kings fans know, Richaun signed a brand new 4-year, $46 million contract this offseason. There were rumors swirling. Where was Richaun going to go? Were the Kings willing to pay the asking price? Luckily for us Kings fans, many teams this offseason did not have salary cap room to offer deals
for the Kings.
To players. If this was 3 years ago, Richaun would have got a max deal.
$100 million.
$150 million, $120 million, whatever. But luckily for us, Richaun loves Sacramento, and we were able to work out a deal. So it breaks down like this. It is $10 million this season, $11 million next season, $12 million the season after that, and $12.8 player option season number 4. Calvin, was he worth it?
Yes, absolutely, he was worth that. In today's NBA, when guys sign $80 million contracts after tearing their Achilles or ACL or something like that, he is 100% worth this. I think it's notable to say that with incentives, this contract could be worth, I think it's like $55 million or somewhere in the 50 to 55 million range. But yeah, he's absolutely worth this. He had a career year in almost every statistical category for the Kings last season. We talked a lot about how Harrison Barnes has been a model of consistency in his time, not just in Sacramento, but in the league altogether. Richaun Holmes has been exactly that as well, and he continues to improve every year since he's been with the Kings. Another guy that is in his late 20s, so still has a lot of good years left ahead of him. And yeah, the Kings definitely got lucky with the fact that there aren't a lot of teams that have cap space right now, and due to COVID and everything that's happened in not just the NBA but the world over the last couple of years, the salary cap is shrunken and just teams couldn't afford to spend that much money this year. So I'd say this is not just worth it, this is a bargain deal for Sacramento.
Yeah, it really is. I don't think consistency is the right term to use for Richaun Holmes, and that's only because he is dramatically improved every year in the league. So I want to say he's...
Well, only 2 years with Sacramento.
Consistent.
And in those 2 years has been very, very consistent. Yes.
I'm going to say he's consistent.
Has gotten better every
consistent
season.
Plus. This is a guy that's shooting, 60+% from field goal range. He's got that push shot that every Kings fan know always goes in every time. It's crazy. Like, if he's in that zone, he's got it. It's going. It's in, which is great. He plays with aggression. He plays with energy. He's always there. He's in the middle of every play. He never complains. You don't hear anything bad about Richaun Holmes, which is great. Not a three-point shooter. I know the trend of the NBA over the past
Doesn't need to be.
10 years is
Doesn't need to be.
the big man. Oh, big, can he shoot threes? Can he stretch the floor? Blah, 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 all that. Richaun Holmes is not a stretch five. But that's perfectly okay. He's great on the defensive end of the floor. He brings energy. He brings rebounding. He brings consistency.
Mm-hmm.
He's been a great asset for the Sacramento Kings. And one of the only solid players that they've had at the big man position since Boogie Cousins left quite a few years ago. I know he's had a great season last year, career numbers in all categories, but he has been on record saying that he's not satisfied with that and he wants to get better. And that's all you can really ask for as a Kings fan, is Kings players want to be in Sacramento, they want to be on the team, and they want to improve every year. And it seems like we have a group of guys that have a common goal. And that common goal is to get these Kings back to the playoffs. Everybody seems to be on the same page, whatever it takes. We want to win, and we want to win on this team. As a Kings fan, that's all I can really ask for.
Yeah, without a doubt. I love Richaun. I love his, like you said, his intensity, the level of energy that he plays with on a nightly basis. He's going to bring it offensively and defensively. And I would say the thing that I am most happy with about him, yes, he's gotten better and better every year he's been in the league and in the short time that he's been with Sacramento. But you can tell he has the drive, the work ethic. He's got the intensity and the awareness that is required of a good defensive player as well, which is something that the Kings desperately need. But he has really, really improved the most in his game at the free throw line.
Mm-hmm.
When this guy came into the league, he was shooting in the mid to high 60% range from the free throw line. Last year, 79.4%, almost 80%. He got to the line a lot.
Incredible.
This is a guy that attempted 3 free throws a game. You might like that to be a little bit higher, but this is not a team that plays out of the low post very much, like very few teams in the NBA do. So, and Richaun doesn't have much of a post-up game in terms of moves. He's got the push shot, and he has a good turn hook shot to his right. That would be something that I think he could improve upon more from a personal perspective. But the fact that he can get to the free throw line and shoot 80% on a team that does not shoot free throws very well for your center is a huge advantage to have.
Yeah, and the reason that he's only shooting 3 shots a game is because he is a good free throw shooter. You look at most centers, they get a lot of free throw attempts per game. Those are mostly intentional fouls. That's because they are not a good free throw shooter. You look at Dwight Howard, you look at the guys like Shaq, Hacka Howard. Those guys are at the free throw line because they are a liability at the free throw line. And teams are willing to take a free throw attempt from them versus an offensive set on that team.
It's that, and it's the fact that those guys are people that play out of the post and that draw double teams in the post, which results in fouls. Richaun doesn't play that way. They set him up in the pick and roll with De'Aaron Fox. He catches lobs, all this stuff. And he catches the ball routinely around the free throw line extended range, which is where he uses that push shot to a very, very high efficient rate. So that is also going to factor into why he doesn't shoot as many free throws.
Yeah, so other than the three-point shooting, he is not a liability on the on the offensive end of the floor. He is great at shooting free throws. But I really want to look at the defensive end of the floor. I know we had all talked about the Sacramento Kings were on pace for the worst defense of last year. Their defensive rating was completely horrible. But Richaun Holmes was one of the very few bright spots on this team. He averaged 1.6 blocks per game, which is incredible for a center. And he only averaged 3.5 fouls per game, meaning that he was available late in games. He wasn't fouling out early. I think he fouled out for like maybe 1 or 2 games last season. That's it. which is great for your center. And getting blocks, I think the addition of Davion Mitchell and some of these guys like Tristan Thompson is just going to make it a lot easier on Richaun Holmes. And his ability to defend guys in the paint and protect the basket is going to allow Tyrese Haliburton, it's going to allow De'Aaron Fox, it's going to allow Davion Mitchell to be more aggressive on the perimeter.
Yeah, I am going to disagree with you on one thing, in that he did get himself in foul trouble quite a bit last year, and that's a result of the fact that he plays aggressive defense, high-energy defense, and he's usually at a size disadvantage guarding big men in this league. He's 6'10".
Yep.
You know, he routinely guards guys 7 feet or taller, and, you know, he's very active in there. I would like to see him get fewer fouls earlier on in the game. He does have a tendency to get 2-3 fouls quickly, but you make a good point. The depth on this team, particularly in the post or the big men, is much better this year than it was last year. So not that the Kings can absorb more fouls from him, but they have other guys like Tristan Thompson who they can roll out there and who can maybe take some of that pressure off of him in those guarding situations. So I would like to see him improve and get that foul number down. The last 2 seasons, he's been over 3.5 fouls a game. You know, I would like to see it somewhere in the high, 2.5 to 2.8 range, something like that. He needs to be on the floor more.
Yeah.
Played less than 30 minutes a game last year.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. But, $10 million a year for a center, averaging a block and a half a game, averaging 14 points per game, who's been really consistent, who's been available. I don't think you can get a better deal than that, especially in Sacramento.
Oh, I agree.
Where you're not
100%.
attracting big-name free agents. You kind of got to stick with what you got. I feel like they got a steal in picking him up in the beginning, signing him. He was really cheap the last 2 years. He outplayed his contract, and the Kings didn't have to overpay to keep him, which is an abnormality in Sacramento, because normally the Kings are known for overpaying for guys. You look at a guy like Harrison Barnes, who we talked about in a podcast or a couple podcasts ago. It doesn't look like an overpay now because it was front loaded, and the last 2 years of his deal are a little bit more team friendly. But early on, that Harrison Barnes deal looked like a little bit of an overpay, and that's what a team in a small market like Sacramento has to do.
Yeah, they do, absolutely. So what do you think we can expect from Richaun this next season?
I am expecting from Richaun this next year, I think he's going to bump up his rebounds to about 9 or 10 a game. I think he is going to continue on his scoring improvement and maybe improve to maybe 15 a game. So I think I could expect maybe 15 points a game, maybe 9 or 10 rebounds. It's hard to tell on the defensive end of the floor what is actually going to happen with him. Just because Davion Mitchell is such a stud on the defensive end of the floor. I don't know if Davion stopping guys on the perimeter is going to give Richaun less chances to get blocks at the rim, or if it's going to increase his rebounds by guys taking bad shots.
Pretty much agree with everything you said. I don't really think that his numbers, I don't think you're going to see a huge jump in his numbers from last year to this year. I don't expect him to score 20 points a game, just because, like I said before, he's not a guy that you play through in the low post. Yep. He's not a guy that you feed consistently. The Kings are more of a perimeter-oriented team.
Yep.
He's going to play off of these guards and get his points that way, get his points at the free throw line. So I would expect anywhere from 14 to 16 points per game probably, which isn't a huge increase from last year. The rebounds could go up. I hopefully they're a better defensive team, which results in more missed shots, which results in more rebound opportunities. He's a glass cleaner type guy. He's very active, great leaper, second jump sort of a thing, and has really become a good offensive rebounder as well. That's where I think he can really make a name for himself in this league as an offensive rebounder. So, statistically speaking, I don't expect much difference from him from this year to last year, or from last year to this year. But I just think that it's another year with this team. It's another year with this core. He loves playing, or it seems like he loves playing with these guys like De'Aaron Fox. And I think De'Aaron Fox loves having a guy like him who can set a good screen, get him open. He's great at getting to the basket, easy lob opportunities. Davion Mitchell is exactly the same way. Tyrese Haliburton is exactly the same way. So there's going to be a lot of opportunity for him to continue fitting in the way that he has. And I think he's going to outplay this contract again because it's a bargain deal.
Yeah, and another guy that wants to be in Sacramento. We talk about this over and over. De'Aaron Fox loves Sacramento. Tyrese Haliburton loves Sacramento. Harrison Barnes wants to be in Sacramento. And Richaun Holmes is another guy who loves Sacramento, and he wants to be here. And as a fan, that's all you can really ask for, is guys that want to get better and they want to be on your team.
Yeah.
Richaun Holmes said last year, or at the end of this year, he was really happy with his season, but he's not content being the player he is. He wants to get better. He wants to add more to this team. And maybe that's not going to be shown statistically, but that's perfectly fine. I'm okay with a guy averaging 14 points a game and 9 rebounds a game, making $10 million.
And shooting 63% from the field.
and 1.5 blocks a game. Like, that's perfectly fine. The Kings are going to get better in other areas. Richaun Holmes is not the area that they need improvement. They can make the playoffs with Richaun having these numbers. We have young guys on this team that need to grow together, and they need to build together. Richaun has been consistent like Harrison Barnes. So I see Harrison Barnes, I see Richaun Holmes as staying as these guys that are consistent. They're going to have pretty similar numbers to last year, maybe a little bit better rebounding numbers if they can improve on the defensive end of the floor. But the real improvements on this team are going to come from guys like De'Aaron Fox, Tyrese Haliburton, possibly Buddy Hield, Davion Mitchell, having depth on this team in case a guy gets injured, in case a guy misses games. The Kings aren't going to go on these 3, 4, 5, 7 game losing streaks like last year.
We sure hope not. And I also would say that Tristan Thompson is a great person to have on this team for Richaun Holmes. Similar style type players, not somebody that is a great low post player, not somebody who's a big time scorer, great shooter. Yes, Richaun Holmes has a very high field goal percentage, but I don't think of him as a great shooter. The push shot is not a jump shot. Mm-hmm. But Tristan Thompson is very similar in that. Great offensive rebounder, veteran player, guy who has playoff championship experience, things that Richaun Holmes wants desperately, in his career, like all these Kings players do. They want to make the playoffs. They want to win games. And Tristan Thompson has done that. He's been a part of that type of culture. I think it's a great opportunity for Richaun Holmes to learn from a guy like that, to go against him in practice. That rebounding battle in practice has got to be crazy. Mm-hmm. So I think it's very beneficial for both of those players and for the Kings as a team.
Yeah, the Kings keep adding and keeping guys that have a chip on their shoulder. That's not a bad thing. These guys want to win. Richaun Holmes spent years in Philadelphia. He spent years in Phoenix before they were good.
Philadelphia before they were good.
These guys are dying to make the playoffs. They have that drive. That's exactly what they want. And that's their only goal. So adding more and more guys like this to this Kings roster, I am ecstatic as a fan. I'm happy to have Richaun Holmes back. I honestly think the Kings are making the playoffs this year.
We all think the Kings are making the playoffs this year. We hope that. We want that. Man, we're going to a playoff game if they go, right?
Yeah, we are. And we're also going to Fan Fest on October 9th. We hope to see you all there. It's going to be a good time meeting Kings fans, having a great time getting ready for the season. Let us know down below in the comments on whether you plan on going to Fan Fest, whether you see Richaun Holmes having a good season this year, potentially what you think he might average, points, rebounds, blocks, whether you think his contract was worth it or not for the Sacramento Kings. And we'll catch you guys in the next one. But in the meantime, go Kings.
Go Kings.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers.